that was my top 10 BLK pound for pound list. You know, a lot of boxing fans spend more time degrading and disrespecting the BLK fighter. That's all what they do. They disrespect the BLK. See, the BLK fighter is easy to disrespect because a lot of people, when there's a problem in boxing, when things doesn't go right in the sport of boxing, the BLK fighter is automatically blamed. Automatically. When a certain promoter or a certain fighter is a problem or doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, that's giving the sport a bad look, instead of boxing fans holding that particular person accountable, they come on a platform and speak negatively about the BLK fighter, even though the BLK fighter had nothing to do with the situation that should have been talked about. The BLK fighter is easy to blame. This is why most people put all the blame on them. Instead of boxing fans acknowledging their talents, they rather talk about their flaws, talk about what they do outside the ring. See, Tank Davis is the most criticized boxer right now. Many fans cried rivers about Tank not doing this and Tank not doing that, but they don't care about other fighters not doing this or that. See, when it came to Triple G, a man that only has beaten 2 world champions throughout his career, never moved up in weight. He was never under that type of pressure. The worst resumes throughout the sport of boxing history. But he was never under this type of pressure. And their excuses for not criticizing Gennady Golovkin or holding him to a standard was that he was very exciting in the ring. But Tank don't get that type of luxury. Tank is very exciting in the ring. But even his excitement in the ring is not enough for fans to respect him as a professional fighter, the same way that they respected Triple G. Now, I want Tank to fight the very best, but we're not going to sit here and act like Tank hasn't been in the ring with good fighters. You know what I'm saying? You see this with Devin, and now you see this with Boots. Boots just did something spectacular. And instead of fans as a collective rallying behind Boots and celebrating Boots, they rather choose to talk about his flaws, right? Because he got buzzed in the fight. Meanwhile, you had Inoue getting floored by lesser fighters. And all what fans can do is call that man a warrior because he picked himself off the canvas and finished the job. But he's a warrior for that. He's a warrior for having flaws. But Boots got exposed. Boots is no longer a generational talent because he got clipped. So boxing fans, when it comes to the BLK fighter, they rather choose to speak negatively about them. They rather choose to be disrespectful and degrade them. A lot of fans that get offended when someone acknowledges the BLK fighter. I could talk about all the greatest BLK fighters that has ever came throughout the sport of boxing, and someone would get mad and make a response video trying to debunk my beliefs about the BLK fighters that I spoke of. That's because they don't like when people acknowledge the BLK fighter. It actually offends them. You can hear people talk about the great Mexican fighter, the great European fighter, the great Asian fighter. You can hear these people talk about those fighters all night and day. But when someone comes on here and speaks positively about the BLK fighter, it's like World War III. Boxing fans can't stand to hear or see someone acknowledging the BLK fighter. They hate it. It offends them. You know, when you look at the pound for pound list, for years, people, they search and put every other fighter but the right fighter at the #1 spot. Bud Crawford, that dude deserved to be #1 since the retirement of Andre Ward. And you got some people that'll say, well, you know, Bud only beat Julius and Dongo to become undisputed. Well, who the F did Triple G beat to become #1? Oh, he fought Canelo to a draw. That's what he did do. He fought Canelo to a draw. He didn't have a resume. He's only beaten world champion before he fought Canelo. And that was Dave Lemieux. And yet he was ranked number 1 on the pound for pound list. Never moved up in weight, never became a multiple division world champion, never really physically unified. He was only a 1 belt holder with a shitty resume. And all he did was fight Canelo to a draw. And that was enough for him to be placed number 1. Vasily Lomachenko, he beat Miguel Mariaga. And he jumped from number 5 to number 1. Yeah. Miguel Mariaga. Was he better than Julius Ndongo? No. He wasn't even a champion. But Julius Ndongo was a unified champion. And Bud beat him to become undisputed. The ultimate accomplishment. Something that hasn't been done for, 11 years. There wasn't an undisputed champion before Bud for over 11 years. And Bud accomplished that in the 4-belt era. And he should have been number 1. But instead, they placed a 5-1 fighter at number 1. And all what he needed to do was beat Miguel Mariaga. And so it's clear as day that most boxing fans despise the BLK fighter for whatever reason. I understand the reason, and that reason has nothing to do with boxing. It's actually deeper than boxing. It has a lot to do with many people's insecurities. Seeing a BLK man be dominant makes a lot of these non-BLK people feel very small inside. Very small. And that's the reality of the situation. When you look at society, many non-BLK men, they use the BLK men as a measuring stick. When you look at people on the streets, when they get in a fist fight, right? And they just so happen to need to beat up a BLK man, they feel proud of that moment. It's like an accomplishment for them. They feel extremely proud when they beat up a BLK man. That is their ultimate accomplishment. And so that's what it all boils down to at the end of the day. And the reality of the situation is that many non-BLK men are very insecure when it comes to a dominant BLK man. That's the reality of it. They see us as the ultimate human being. And this is why we're always the measuring stick. And even in boxing, a lot of these guys, they come on here and talk about how their favorite fighters are this and that and this and that, but they cannot go without using the BLK fighter as a measuring stick for their favorite fighters' greatness. That's a fact. They can talk about Inoue all day, but they can't go without comparing Inoue to a BLK fighter. They have to compare Inoue to the BLK fighter. That's because the BLK fighter is the standard. That's the reality of that. That's the reality. You can't sit there and say, "Oh, Joe Boxing, you're wrong." I'm not wrong. I'm right. All these content creators here in this space that hate on the BLK fighter, they always use the BLK fighter as a measuring stick. And even if they don't use the BLK fighter as a measuring stick, they still circle back to the BLK fighter while discussing a non-BLK fighter. Right now, Devin Haney is a hot commodity right now. He's a trending topic. Boots is now. The people that despise these BLK fighters are going to be using Haney and Boots Ennis as a measuring stick. That's what they're going to be doing. So a lot of these fans, they get upset when someone acknowledges the BLK fighter, when someone speaks positively about the BLK fighter. And it's not like the BLK fan are the only fans, that's supporting their fighters and not giving a two F's about, other fighters. There's so many groups here in this space that are pro their fighters and anti-BLK fighters. But only the BLK fans are the ones that are not allowed to be how everyone else is in this community. But I do not care. I'm going to continue to uplift and support and continue to respect the fighters that represents me as a BLK man. Shout out to the BLK fighters.